It's my turn to request Sunil Sharma, Managing Director of Extreme Labs. Sunil has a distinct background. He was a diplomat with Canadian Foreign Service. He served as International Director for CVCA. He is actively involved in Canada's most important business technology and investment networks like TIE, CIX, Mars, Bank Venture Forum. He also co-organizes the famous Startup Week in Toronto. Let's welcome Sunil.
Okay, so my name is Sunil Sharma, so I'm with Extreme Startups. So Extreme Startups is a story that's only about a year and 2 months old. It was started in February of 2012. It's a carry-on of a program called Extreme University, which was an in-house incubation program that was part of another company. It's actually a separate company called Extreme Venture Partners and Extreme Labs. So there's a lot of these extreme names. Partly it's deliberate. There's a relationship, but it's not a direct relationship. So Extreme University was something that had been running for the last few years as part of a mobile development company and a venture capital fund in Toronto called Extreme Labs and Extreme Ventures. And what these guys have been doing is providing a little bit of capital, often $20,000, some desk space and some guidance to some up-and-coming young companies that they had just been encountering. And it was a way to really replicate what had been seen in the Valley with some of the inherent tech companies, and a way to sort of identify next-generation technology and just see what can happen. So Extreme University had some success stories. Local companies like BumpTop, which was actually a U of T spin-out that was a graphic user interface, a touch user interface that was kind of leading up to the advent of touchscreen and tablet computing. It's a U of T team that was identified by Extreme U, bit of funding, grew the product, and later acquired by Google, and now the founder of that company, Anand Agarwal, is actually running product teams at Google. Another company, Locationary, was identified, built up, and that's gone on to be a successful company, actually a portfolio company here of Plaza Corp and other investors. Sorry? Contagion is another one. So there's been a few stories. Another one is Yukon Games, which has now grown to be one of the largest gaming companies, mobile game companies in Canada. Growing rapidly, not necessarily a well-known story yet in Canada, but certainly attracting a lot of attention around the world. So the idea was that a group of VC funds should band together and try to formalize what had been happening at Extreme University and do it as a partnership. So 5 venture capital funds, all separate funds, OMERS Ventures, which of course is the venture arm of the big pension fund, BDC Venture Capital, which is a government-backed venture capital fund, Row Canada Ventures, which is a Montreal-based fund with its corporate presence, head office in the US, Relay Ventures, which is a mobile fund that formerly was known as the BlackBerry Partners Fund. Changed the name. Maybe they'll change it back now, given some good recent developments. But they're a pure mobile play fund started by a guy named John Albright and Kevin Talbot here in Toronto. And Extreme Venture Partners. So the original Extreme is now one of 5 investors. And so Extreme Startups has become a separate entity with its own very small management team. I'm one of 2 managing directors of this thing, and so it's done in a very lean way, backed by these VC funds, and our job is to now go out and find some of the most disruptive, high potential, exciting, and dynamic teams from essentially anywhere, bring them to Toronto and put them into a 90-day mentor-focused program. So just looking at, I guess here at this couple slides that I brought, so a key aspect of the model of Extreme Startups is that it is first and foremost a mentor-driven model. So we have about 90 or 95 mentors. We list them all on our website. They're basically a good collection of the who's who of technology, of people who have built companies, grown them, in many cases had really exciting exits, in many cases are on to their 3rd or 4th business. The mentors are generally not investors, they're really company builders. They don't have to be from Canada. We have mentors in the US and some in other countries, but they're all committed to the program. They're all available, and we've kind of created a formal program. So it's a 90-day model, and the mentors are very active, very committed, and they're very open to helping these companies. And the help might be as something as simple as introductions. It might be something as guidance on specific business issues that they've encountered in their recent past. It might be on things like helping set up companies for fundraising, and in many cases, mentors can become investors themselves if they are really if they're really taken by the business models. The other aspect is we've created, and we believe strongly in industry partnerships. So I've listed a few logos here on this one slide. So these are companies that have committed to extreme startups. There's many more. They provide a lot of support. They're also very open to working with these companies. In many cases, they will serve as customers or validators or early adopters. In other cases, they provide free services. So we have cloud hosting companies that will provide a very aggressive packages of services for our companies that, of course, will reduce the burn rate of these companies and allow them to really be very lean and efficient, and also adopt these cloud services. And hopefully, as these companies grow, these companies are betting that these guys will turn out to be a great customer. So, Amazon, AWS, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft, Clearfit, Odesk, Softlayer, Wave Accounting, OfferPop, SendGrid, MailChimp, companies like that. We've got them all listed out, and they've either reached out to us or we've reached out to them for a partnership. Funding. So we do provide a fair amount of funding, I think, on a comparative accelerator basis, like basically comparing accelerator programs around the world. Kind of un-Canadian, you're kind of over-investing, I guess, in contrast to other programs, but all our companies seem to be getting if you add up these numbers, $230,000, all within the 90 days. So on the first day, when the companies start, they get a check for $50,000. That comes from our 5 investors. Around 20 days later, they'll get a check for $30,000. I actually gave it today to the companies. That comes in partnership with Ontario Centres of Excellence via this FedDev program called Smart Start. It's been out for a couple of years, and we've just done a kind of a lock-in deal with them where they'll co-invest with our companies. Basically, no questions asked. They're not part of the selection process or anything, but we're basically proving to them that we'll find them high potential companies that will be, and they're going to be investing the money anyway. That was basically our premise going in, is that this money has been allocated. They're going to find companies, so we'll just find them 5 or 10 of our own startups, and they'll match with our investment. And at the end, there's a convertible note from one of our partners, BDC Venture Capital. This is really a great initiative by BDC. It serves a lot of their own interests and a lot of the broader ecosystem interests. But it's a $150,000 convertible note. It comes with really entrepreneur-friendly terms. The companies can opt in or opt out of it, but they have to do it at the very beginning of the program, and they can't change their mind. So, but because the terms are very entrepreneur-friendly, the cap is very reasonable. There's a very modest discount to the market, and BDC is kind of taking that upfront risk that they are going to invest in these companies so long as they meet the threshold that they've set. We think it's a really fair deal, and excited to be partners with BDC. So then I've just listed the 5 partners. The other thing is that these VCs do not have any rights to the companies, so they don't have any ability to block another investor. They don't have any ability to ask for preferential terms at any point. All they get is a front row seat. They're part of the selection process. They're definitely part of the decision of which companies are going to be accepted. But after that, it's really up to them, and in part up to us, to keep them very informed and to watch the progress of these companies. But at any time, there could be other investors from anywhere and they do come visiting, and they like something. They might start to talk about a term sheet, and then that will inspire other investors to get serious really quick. So we are a bit of an ecosystem catalyst, and when we speak about the ecosystem, I mean Toronto, I think you guys all know this, it's really a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem. And when I say Toronto, I kind of mean the greater Toronto area, and I includes from west of Waterloo and all the way, I would say, at least to Montreal. I mean, there's a great corridor happening, but Toronto in particular, it's been getting all these rankings. Startup Genome ranked it early at 4th and then at 8th when their more comprehensive data points came out, which is still really, really impressive given the overall size of the internet economy here in comparison to obviously big places like the Valley, New York, London, Boston, Chicago, Shanghai, Singapore. I mean, there's a lot of stuff like this happening around the world, so it's great that Toronto is up there. We, I guess, play a role in the ecosystem, although it's not our focus. It's not what we were built to do. We're really built to find investments for our investors, so we're a bit of a deal flow pipeline for these other VCs, but of course it's great to be doing that in a place where there's a lot of vibrant activity. And so we leverage with partners. So we have on the top left box, there's all these organizations that are pretty much all local, and they're about the development community. These are designers, developers, hackers. They're self-assembling. There's hackathons. I do the startup weekend. These are all really popular events. We often host them. We'll give up our modest space. No charge, we'll clear desks out and let it be used in the evenings or weekends just to be more connected and also to build just more relationships and build a bit of a presence. We do these dinner series, so this is essentially a way to give back to some of our mentor companies, which are all struggling with a nice problem, which is growing, like how to grow as fast as they can, hiring, how to hire the best developers, the best talent. So obviously talent is in short supply. So we sometimes try to help out with that by encouraging people to get to know these companies, maybe have dinner with the CEO or the management team, maybe at their offices or at some nice restaurant, just get to know the culture and the energy, and then over time, if they're interested in potentially working there, they can certainly apply. We're not a placement agent or a recruitment firm or anything, but we are able to, recommend and introduce people that we think are high potential. Our program leads up to something called Demo Day, which is pretty common in the accelerator world. So after the 90 days, we do an investment-focused event. We think this is a bit of a differentiator for us in that our investment event is pretty substantial in terms of the number of funds that come to the event, whether they're local or Canadian or US or global. And it's part of what I personally spend a lot of time on is reaching out and getting to know investors that are in the space of early stage seed investing, and to leverage that overall story that they've been hearing about, that Toronto has a lot of cool things happening and great companies and smart people, and so that they should, if they are thinking of coming out, this would be an appropriate time to see some well-selected companies that have, should impress on stage, and then if they want to either look at investments, that's great, or if they just want to get a sense of what's going on and potentially meet with other investors like syndication partners, it's a great time to do it. We're funded for 5 companies at a time. That's our model. But we want to do more, so we created something called a pre-accelerator, which is our attempt to find more companies without any more money. So we've found some companies that are usually technically focused. So these are companies where there's a strong engineering capacity within a small team. And what we'll do is we'll just bring them in. We'll make them part of the ecosystem. We'll give them a free office. We'll give them access to the same roster of mentors. We'll give them the same perks from those hosting companies and whatnot, because we'll negotiate that in at the beginning. And we won't take any equity in these businesses, but we want them to succeed. So if they succeed, that's great for everybody, but we won't make a financial return. I should have said on the other companies, we take 10% common shares, which is for the first 50,000. So basically that's our, and we do standard terms. We don't negotiate. We just basically, it's a take it or leave it kind of situation, and that's kind of how it is in most programs. Part of what we then try to do is get the buzz going, get the awareness. It's good for a few things. It's good for just showcasing us. It leads to probably a higher caliber of application if more people think that Extreme Startups is a good program, just like they think Y Combinator is a great program, TechStarts is a great program, 500 Startups is a great program. It adds to the quality of the application, so we do it partly for that, but of course we do it for the companies because they get hits, they get people visiting and sort of checking out and demoing something, or going to test flight and trying an app out, seeing if it works, telling their friends. So we've got the normal press in Canada, we've got like TechCrunch and whatnot, so we've been kind of on purpose building out those relationships. So and so our companies have had pretty good coverage, I would say. I mean, hopefully it'll even get better, but we've got Wall Street Journal and some of the big U.S. press, Huffington Post, etc. We were featured on the National last time with like an evening episode. I think they called it Startup School or something, but it was just basically like, there's this whole Dragon's Den thing that's happening at the same time, so it's kind of like for public consumption. People like watching people pitch and business ideas and seeing what happens, so we kind of have a bit of that dynamic happening. I think that's it for the slides. So I didn't realize it was 15 minutes, so I was just making a couple of additional points here, but we're kind of, I think I mentioned that we're lean, so we're a two-person organization, so we don't have a lot of capacity to take on new projects, but we do try to leverage with other partners. And we're also a little bit ruthless, so my own personal philosophy is that it's okay for these companies to fail. I actually hope that if they are going to fail, that they get it over with really quickly and not linger on like kind of Canada style, where you can take advantage of programs and funding, government, SHRED, IRAP, FedDev, free office space, and just kind of like let it ride out for a few years, and really by that time you're out of time. And I moved to Toronto from California, and so did my colleague, who's an American. I'm a Canadian. And really the awareness that we bring is that there's only so many tries you can be an entrepreneur, and so Canadians really, you're using up a lot of your attempts by letting your idea drag out. So we're okay to put a bullet in a company early, take the loss, and we just expect that those entrepreneurs will bounce back and do something else meaningful fairly quickly. So that's it for my time. I don't know if there's maybe no time for questions or.
We have a lot of time,
but
if you have one question.
I just noticed your pre-accelerator program. I wasn't aware of this before. I know a few of my friends applied to your accelerator program. So what percentage of the programs that get into your accelerator comes from the pre-accelerator, and how many of them come from just regular applications?
Most of them come from neither. Most of our companies come from us finding them. So we just use our network, or we go to, we read, and like most companies that are kind of doing something cool will get covered somewhere, so we follow them and chase them down. Companies apply on the website, and we try to look at them. And the pre-accelerator, we don't really market it because we do it as basically on referrals from people that we just trust. So they might be our own companies, like someone who went to school with a guy from University of Waterloo that's just really strong, been working in his basement coding something that's really profound. We might go and find them and ask them if they seem like a good fit, we'll give them a spot. But we don't actually do a campaign for pre-accelerator companies.
Thank you, Sunil. Thank you for the